Hi, and welcome to another episode of Intersections, Policy Program and Practice Exchange. My name is Elisa Gwilliam, and today I have the pleasure to be speaking with Dr. Larry Force, Professor of Psychology and Director of the Center on Aging and Disability Policy, and co-founder of NOAR, the National Organization of Adult Addiction and Recovery. Dr. Force, do you want to get us started today?
Lisa, thank you so much for making all this happen and making it seamless. As Alyssa indicated, my name is Dr. Larry Force. I am a professor of psychology at Mount St. Mary College, and I run a Center on Aging and Disability Policy with my dear friend and colleague, Jeff Kahana. We're now into our third season, and this started as an idea. And within the first phone call of the idea, we were able to launch 11 days later. And now we're into our third season. I'm very proud of it. Andrew O'Grady, who is the executive director of Mental Health Dutchess, is typically the co-facilitator, but based upon scheduling, he was not able to make it today. So hats off always to Andrew and for the good work that he's doing, not only locally, statewide, but also nationally. When we started this, the idea was to be able to elevate the theme of addictions and recovery, to a national level. And we've been very successful at that. Matter of fact, we've even reached out across the pond, as they would say. We've had guests from Australia and guests from Ireland. We do a lot with social media, and we're going to continue to build that platform as well. It's all about connections. That's one of the things that I really, truly believe in. And through connections and social media, I met one of our guests today, Vance Larson. Vance is, no better word, an influencer, not only professionally, but also personally. I ran across them through LinkedIn, and we developed a connection, and we've built upon that. Vance is a Renaissance man. By day, case manager, has a private practice. He's a martial artist. He's just a voice of reason. He introduced me to this group called Pacifer, which is a platform. It's a digital mental health platform, which is a portal to holistic and complementary care. And through that connection, we've developed a further working relationship and friendship. And through that connection, I've met Curtis Paul, who is our guest today. And Curtis is the executive director of Recovery Resources Center in Maryland. And we've had conversations with Curtis and with the leadership of Pacifer, and this is just a natural progression, seamless, that he would be able to join us today to talk about the work that he's doing. But I'll let Vance provide more of an overview because he has a working and a very deep, good relationship with Curtis. So Vance, can I introduce you and ask you to talk a little bit about yourself, how you got here, and then be able to provide a profile for Curtis?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me stand in today. I was glad I was able to, move some things around and be a part of this. So again, thank you. And I actually have been in mental health for about 35 years in various capacities. Right now, as Dr. Force said, I work as a case manager by day. In the evening, I do some coaching, consulting. I'm also an author for several weekly publications. That being said, I have a vested interest in addictions. And a few years ago, I believe I was at a Wacomico Goes Purple event, which is heroin awareness. And I met some of Curtis's staff there. I guess it was staff or volunteers. They actually introduced me to the Recovery Resource Center. The facility, the organization that I work with is 2 counties over. But I work in these 3 counties, and I had an opportunity to have a conversation with Curtis over the course of the next 2 years. We have developed a relationship. We have, we're in the process of, putting our resources together. We had a potential partnership with my organization and his organization. And the reason why I did that is that Curtis is not only someone who is a trusted member of the community, but he brings some forward thinking. I like what he brings to the table. He's a compassionate man. He's got a good handle of pulse of the area that he is working in. And he's done some really good work there. So, with the Recovery Resource Center, and I'll let Curtis speak a little bit more about it. But one of the things that is just so appealing and just speaks to the good work that Curtis and the folks at the Recovery Resource Center do is that they have well over 50,000 people come through their facility each year, and that is impressive. And that is something that attracted me to what they are doing in the mission statement. So with that being said, Curtis, if you don't mind just kind of, giving us a little more detailed information about RRC and maybe, with the in-house safe station, that sort of thing. And, maybe what led you to accepting the position as the executive director. And, let's start from there, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you, Vance, for the kind words. And thank you for having me here today. So the Recovery Resource Center is really the hub for recovery in Wicomico County. We serve the surrounding counties, the surrounding states. We get people coming by on vacation. The main service we offer here is we're a host space for 12-step meetings. We represent many different fellowships. So a few of those would be Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Adult Children of Alcoholics, Celebrate Recovery, and Sexaholics Anonymous. So that's how we see so many people each year, because we have, some meetings have over 100 people in attendance. They can get quite large, especially when it's a celebration of, a milestone for someone in recovery. So aside from the 12-step meetings, we also host various educational workshops throughout the year designed to teach important life skills to those who have struggled with addiction. If someone spent multiple years in active addiction, they may have missed out on some pertinent life skills, or just need a refresher course. So we teach things like parenting classes, financial literacy, budgeting, credit repair, self-empowerment. We'll do yoga. Really it works on kind of a semester basis where whatever program we can offer at that time, we will run it for a couple of weeks and then go on the search for a new program that we could provide to the community. All of these services are provided at no cost. We are a donation-based facility, and we don't charge anyone that comes through the door. Aside from the educational side of things, we also host various sober social events throughout the year. It's important for those in recovery to have fun, to build their support network, and to mingle with like-minded community members. So we have dances, we'll have holiday parties, New Year's Eve dance, we do Thanksgiving dinner, holiday Christmas party, we'll give gifts to the kids, we'll do summertime recovery barbecues. Really, whatever we can provide to the community to, build a recovery network, build that support network and that support system to help people be more successful. That's what we're here for. A couple of years ago, we partnered up with the Wicomico County Health Department to be home to Wicomico County's only safe station. So that means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, someone in active addiction can come here to the Recovery Resource Center, They will be linked with a peer support specialist who will do everything in their power to get that person help. If they need clothing, food, transportation, and then, ultimately treatment, whether it's outpatient, inpatient, they will do whatever they can to get that person the help that they need. It's been a hugely successful program. We've been able to place over 200 people a year into treatment. So, it's just a great resource for the community. And that's basically the gist of the Recovery Resource Center. We're always looking to expand and grow, and that's, how Vance and I are working together. Diakonia offers, some great services that, for the homeless population. We see a lot of the homeless population here, so it was just a natural fit. So your next question was, what brought me to the Recovery Resource Center?
And before you go on, let me ask you this, okay?
Sure.
Let's do the way back machine. Did you ever think, okay, when you were in your early 20s, that this is what you'd be doing professionally?
Absolutely not. Not even close.
So,
No.
bring us, I asked, I teach undergraduate students. And when I have guests come in, one of the things I ask them to do is answer that question. Because the undergraduate students are sitting there having no idea, or maybe a vague idea of where they want to go. And my answer to them is, stay tuned. You may not know where you want to go at this point. So how did you actually enter this arena of addictions and recovery?
I had my own trials and tribulations with addiction. That's how I got to this point. I have been a businessman at a young age. Right out of high school, I started a business. I was a mechanic by trade. So I started a mobile repair business where I would go around to different facilities and provide service without them having to come to me. So it was very successful, but I was smoking marijuana. I was drinking. I guess I just wasn't happy. Something was missing from my life, but I kept using these chemicals as an escape to help me cope with whatever I was struggling with. That soon turned to prescription pills after I had an accident and needed surgery done on my knee. I was prescribed opiates. They were the magic pill I've been waiting for my entire life. They were the answer to everything. They made me feel amazing. They gave me energy and drive. And, I just thought I was king of the world until the pills ran out. And then I realized how physically dependent I had become to those pills. And without them, I was nothing. And so I needed a replacement. Enter heroin and IV drug use. And at that point, I was completely out of control. The addiction had its grips on me, and I was a puppet. I was no longer in control of my life. So that led me down a very dark path. I had some trouble with the law, and I ended up going on a forced vacation for about 3.5 years, where that time was, in my eyes, taken from me, out of my poor choices, but I'll never get that time back. So when I got out, I decided, why not take what I learned from these horrible experiences and spin it so I can help others not make the mistakes I did. So I immediately enrolled in chemical dependency counseling. I got a degree, learned everything everything that they could teach me. I was a sponge, just soaking up all of the information. I got a job with the health department as a peer support specialist, working with individuals in active addiction, seeing where I used to be, seeing that, just everything, them being lost, the light not being behind their eyes anymore. And then, from the health department, I found out about the Recovery Resource Center and how they were in need of someone to really take a hold and bring it into the 21st century. And here we are. And I think it was all for a reason. I think everything that happened, all those horrible experiences happened to put me in this place so that I could help others.
That is a wonderful testimony. Wonderful. I'm going to ask Alyssa to bring up a picture, and then I'm going to ask both you and Vance to comment on it, because I think that from your profile and from what I know of Vance, I think you're both going to be shaking your head up and down. So this is a picture that was taken in June of 2020. I'm driving down the road. You know, we're in New York, in Dutchess County. I'm driving down the main thoroughfare, and I look over and I see this building. I have to make a U-turn. I want to take a picture of it. And what it is, it's the former main building of a large 5,000 patient psychiatric center, and it's being torn down. And the reason it's being torn down is because of the fact that these places, thank God, have been closed. And Andrew and I will, I'll tell you some of our sentiment about this, but have been closed, and they're tearing it down to build, homes and condominiums. And the tagline is mental health at its best, the tearing down of walls. Because on this video cast and in our program, we really promote this idea of not dual doors, not one door coming in for addiction, the other one coming in for mental health. Andrew's a big champion of this, both from a practice perspective, policy, and program development perspective. He's an executive director of the mental health chapter of Dutchess County. And the fact is that tearing down those walls, that's the way we used to do business. Most of these places, we're about 80 miles north of Manhattan. Most of these places, when they were built in 1910, 1915, they were like, hidden. We have a lot of prisons in the area. We have psychiatric centers. We have a developmental center. And not because the place is beautiful and the taxes are a little bit lower, but because they were isolated, 100 years ago, 105 years ago. They were isolated. So, Alyssa, can you bring up the other picture? So the other picture is from Andrew's larger network of Mental Health of America. And as the story goes, the founder of MHA put out a call and asked people as they were closing these facilities to send the shackles, send the metal, send the handcuffs that they would use to contain people, because that was the treatment modality. And then what they did was they melted it down and they made this bell. It's like a Liberty Bell, and they ring it at each of their conferences. So we can go back now. You can move away from the pictures. Thank you so much. So to both of you, what's your and Vance, I'm going to ask you first. What's your take on that? That the tearing down of walls. You've been in this business a long time. What you practice today and what you see today and how you practice today is different than when you came in 30 years ago. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that. And then Curtis, if you could, add to that.
Well, the image that you showed just kind of conjures up the image in my head of trauma. And the trauma that we carry around, whether we are trying to not face reality, whether we are trying to suppress things that have happened to us, whether we are just trying to get through life and not feel, tearing down the old way of mental health. I love that concept. One of the great things that I do absolutely love about the addiction-based community and recovery-based community is that prior to the meetings, they often, you have a group of individuals that get together and they meeting before the meeting or the meeting after the meeting. And there's no shame in that. And there's just this open dialogue, free flowing dialogue, people just standing, or they may go out and have a cup of coffee or a donut or something. And they own those experiences. And to me, that's very empowering. And I love the fact when somebody, and just as Curtis gave beautiful testimony, when somebody can own that story and use that as a as a factor to motivate, to better their lives, it's inspiring, and it carries ripples that affect every aspect of their life and every person that they touch. Because, as Curtis talked about his story, I too went through a little bit of a dark period in my late teens as well. And, while 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 I did some bad things during those times, I escaped any legal penalties or things of that nature, but I carried around these images in my head, in my mind, of these things that I've done, and just tragic things. And that's something that I carry with me every day, that uses me, that I use to become the best version of me. It's a motivation, it's a determination. It helps me be empathetic and sympathize with my clients. And so, I know I'm getting away from the point here, but I'll tie it into the old way. It no longer works. There's a new experience, there is a new expression, there is a new way of validating our experiences without shame, without guilt, without restraint. And I like where we are going as a community and professionally speaking as well. And so let me toss it over to you, Curtis. That image in and of itself, what does that conjure up for you?
Well, I think of two things when I saw the building. Even though it was ugly, from the outside, what I see is hope, because if you tear that down, it leaves a blank canvas, and then you could build something much better in its place. And I look at that with a lot of people that are struggling with active addiction or, mental health. Things may look bad, but it's never too late to tear it down and rebuild. And what comes out of that can be something beautiful. I also think how, like you were saying, Vance, with the walls, the way they used to be, we couldn't have conversations like this. I wouldn't be able to share my experience without, fear of being judged, and, the stigma of addiction, and, just the way people look at mental health. But now people celebrate their recovery. They celebrate their clean date, and they talk about themselves, and they share their story to inspire and to bring hope to others who might be having similar struggles. So I think that's amazing. I think it's amazing how far we've come, and I'm excited for the future and how much further we can go.
As both of you are talking, things are coming to mind. I love what both of you said. But Curtis, you said this thing about, it's never too late, and Vance, you talked about the idea of, at one point you apologized because you said you thought you were going off track. You weren't going off track, because that's all tied together. I think the thing that we know is the power of the lived experience. You talked before, Curtis, about peers. In the work that we're doing now through intersections and intersections exchange, one of the topics that keeps coming up is the role and power of peers from the lived experience. I know it may not have seemed like that then, but fast forward to now, it's a gift, because you would not be able to go as deep with an understanding and empathy if you hadn't experienced this yourself. Now, there's not one of us on this video cast out of the four of us that would encourage people to go experience those things so they can be better counselors. But the fact is, since you have experienced those things, you are a better presence. The other thing is, and this shifts it to the next theme, is I tell my students two things. There's two things that you have to take into a family's life today. You have to take your heart and an understanding of technology. If you can only take one, you take your heart. But you can't act as though the technology isn't out there. and that it's not, and that it can be very supportive. So we're moving along, and we're starting to integrate, technological, platforms and things like that, and then boom, COVID hits. Prior to COVID, the only way that I could see clients was on a HIPAA compliant video platform. Now, because the rules have been relaxed, if I want to see somebody on FaceTime, I can, because of the fact that we adapted. And hopefully we will not roll back to those, regulated, so overly regulated rules. But the idea of digital mental platforms, how Vincent and I moved to a next level in our relationship is the fact that he introduced me to Pacifer. And Pacifer, there are a number of digital mental health platforms out there. But the thing that attracted me to it was the fact that it was a portal to complementary and holistic care. And as the discussions have continued, what we can really see happening is independently, or also the opportunity of pairing it with something that, has a more clinical, research oriented, presence as well. Talk to us, both of you, about your vision or your appreciation or the value you see in digital mental health support as your clients are moving, as COVID came in with the quarantine. And Curtis, maybe you could address that initially. What's that been like for you and for your agency?
I think it's amazing. It can be very difficult for someone who is trying to rebuild their lives to make appointments, to get there, to find the transportation, to, get childcare, to even get up and get out of bed on time to get to their appointment. So to be able to pick up the phone and to be at your appointment, 2 minutes after you realize, when your appointment is, I think that's amazing. And I think it's really just destroyed a lot of the barriers that were in place before COVID. So I agree with you. I hope that telehealth is here to stay and the regulations stay the way they are so that, everyone has this much easier access to help when they need it.
I love it. And I think, we're talking the same language. I mean, I think if you brought look, no one's talking about being a hologram. We're not talking about, being disconnected from our clients at a distance. I think in many ways, this brings us closer because of the fact that, as you say, you pick up a phone. Agencies have to understand, but I know that they do, the cost of transportation, of getting people. It's like, trying to figure out, how to move a whole, group of individuals at the same time. How do you do that? And the digital mental health platforms add to the ability to be able to deliver this and deliver it direct, confidentially, and with purpose. Vance, what's your reaction?
Well, I was going to say, just to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, you talked about the transportation. Years ago, I was, involved in a startup organization project, and it was a mobile methadone clinic. And the reason why, we put this program together is because in Southern Maryland at that time, for someone to be involved in the methadone program, they'd have to get up at 5 o'clock. They'd have to get on a bus. It would be a 2-hour trip on the bus to get to the provider. You sit for the clinic, you get your methadone, you do your quick bit counseling, and then it's another 2 hours back. So by the time that, these clients were getting home, at this point, it's 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Well, if we're asking our people who are in the methadone program to be, proactive and productive and get on with their lives, the better part of their day was shot, so they couldn't hold a job. So, I think the mental health platform solves that problem. So, I do think that it's valid. I know in my personal experience, as I've been talking about, when COVID hit in full force, I couldn't meet the demand. I was literally, my private practice went through the roof, working the better part of 18 hours a day. And that is no exaggeration, 18 hours a day. It was insane hours. But there's also another piece of that too. And, I've had conversations with you about it. and Curtis and I, we actually had a conversation about it, I guess not too long ago, is that there are many individuals right now, especially with COVID and the shortages of providers and trying to get people in to see those providers. There's this gap of time, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's 2 months. So there's going to be a period of time when somebody is reaching out for help and they'd like to talk to somebody, but they just can't get that appointment because the next available appointment is 36 days out. I think telemental health and telehealth, solves that problem. You can at least, get engaged. You can at least get some resources with, one call. So I think, where we are as a society, and I think as a profession, it solves a lot of problems in real time.
Without a doubt. So one of the things as we bring this to close is the obvious delivery of services in this new world. And one of the themes that we talked about before we went on air is we talked about the fact that people need not travel this recovery path alone, that the agencies, that the support staff are available. Is there a possibility that you could just talk a little bit about that, and then Alyssa will take it to close where she'll ask you for your contact information, both from your agency and from your life coach platform. So can you just talk about, business as usual during COVID? I mean, you're open. People don't have to do this alone. So Curtis, maybe you can talk about what that looks like.
Well, for us, and I know for Vance, we pride ourselves on remaining open through the entire year of 2020. We made sure someone was here at the center, answering phones, fielding, people walking up, providing those resources at a time when there wasn't a lot available. It was very tough to find help. A lot of people were scrambling, just didn't know what to do. So, we were happy we could, figure out a way to remain open. So, now it's really, I think it's helped us because we've learned how to adapt and we are better prepared for, whatever might come down the road. And we're stronger because of it.
That's great. And Vance, profile
Yeah,
from you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Curtis hit the nail on the head. His organization, they didn't close, they didn't falter. Neither did mine. And, I'm not going to call organizations out by name, but the vast majority of the resources in our area closed, and to this day are still closed. And when I learned that Recovery Resource Center didn't close, that told me everything that I needed to know about the Recovery Resource Center and the heart of Curtis. And that is why I have lobbied and tried to build this partnership in expanding these resources, because he has gone above and beyond during an epidemic, the pandemic, that most people have not met that challenge. And if I knew nothing else about Curtis, that would be enough to recommend to anybody to visit, the programs over there. Meet Curtis. He's an amazing individual, a great story, and he's making a dent in the addictions community in the area.
That's a great testimony. Well, listen, on behalf of Alyssa, Andrew, and myself, we really can't thank both of you enough for joining us today. It was a very powerful message that individually and collectively you were able to present. So at this point, Alyssa is going to bring it to close and look for contact information from you that we can share with people that are listening or watching this.
Oh, thank you, Larry. And Vance, if people wanted to get a hold of you and talk further with you about this, how can they do that?
Very simple. The best way to do it is just Google Vance Larson Life Coach, and you'll find me on numerous platforms. Yeah, that's the best way, or they can just reach out directly via phone, 410-533-6219. That is my direct cell. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Curtis, how can people reach you?
Well, we're also on Google, Recovery Resource Center in Salisbury, Maryland. Our website is rrcsby.org. To reach me directly, call me. My cell phone is 443-783-7446. And I'm happy to help.
Thank you guys. And thank you for watching today. You've been listening to Intersections, Policy, Program, and Practice Exchange. If you'd like to hear this segment again, share it with friends, or leave a comment, please log on to our website, www.intersections-exchange.org. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you.